Hi, everybody. It's so nice to have you with me tonight. These are my favorite Thursdays. At the end of the month, we get to talk about relevant topics to do with personalization. Tonight, we're going to talk about mental health and how to support our patients just going through it, right? We all have those patients that are just burned and stressed and a little bit anxious and a little bit depressed, and they may not have a formal diagnosis with something, but there's so many ways that we can help them just improve their quality of life. And we're just about a minute out. I want you to let you know that the Q&A is open, and I do my best to do a little back and forth. If you see me looking to the side, it's because I'm looking at that screen. So if you'd like to pop in where you're coming from, or if you have any questions or comments, or if you want to correct something I'm saying, because we're all learning here. Love that for us. So yeah, feel free. Chat is open. Okay, so we're at 8 o'clock. So let's get started right on time. I really appreciate you being here. Last Thursdays of the month, we always do this. It's my special time. I get to talk to our practitioners, which is my favorite part of my job, really, is getting to talk to you guys. So it's really an honor. So we're personalizing with confidence. So this is all about making you feel really great in the portal, giving you a few tips and tricks and formulating ideas. And yeah, so let's create some custom products for mental health. Hi, I'm Dr. Lydia. If we haven't met before, I'm an account manager. I'm a naturopathic doctor. I do education. I do a lot of things, but I've had a practice for 14 years. So I've seen a lot of people, and I've certainly seen a lot of people in mental distress. I'm not like psychiatric focused necessarily. So I'm just coming to you as an everyday practitioner. And these are things that I use with my patients, things that move the needle for them. I do have a large dispensary associated with my practice. So I've literally worked with thousands of different products in different combinations in different ways. So I'm going to share with you what has worked for me really well, and you're welcome to pop in the chat like things that are working for you, but I'll walk you through a couple different scenarios. I always like, I don't know if you've been to these, but I always like doing case studies, because at the end of the day, we work with real patients, right? And I think there's always enough presentations that are a little bit more theoretical or more technical, although we will get into the weeds a little bit. So I always like to start with why. What are we doing here? Why are we taking time out of our evening to be tapped in, tuned in with formulating with confidence for mental health? And, we all have this in common, whether you're a medical doctor, an acupuncturist, fantastic physician's assistant. We have a lot of good PAs that we work with, I will say. You guys are really incredible. So we all have this in common. We see people in emotional distress. It's literally impossible to have a practice and not have people in emotional distress. And some of us are going to be, again, tuned into this and have the time, because there's sometimes a little bit of luxury of being able to take time with the patient so that they can unravel their story for you. It's very few people that come in and just tell you that they're having really dark thoughts right off the bat. Oftentimes you do have to establish some trust and communication with them. But luckily, as functional medicine practitioners, we get to do that. And in my mind, that's one of the more interesting parts of our job. Yeah, so the other reason why is that we have these patients in emotional distress, and we need to understand, where are they shopping for supplements? So really, where the demand is right now, there is a demand for personalized supplementation. So good stuff. We're in the right place. Nice. But there's also demand at grocery stores and Amazon. Let's be honest. And if you are depressed and you are anxious, you are quite susceptible, I would say. It's a population that's susceptible to outside influences, to blogs, to podcasts, to your second aunt once removed and their ideas about what you shouldn't be doing for your mental health. So what I like about personalizing a product is we put it together, we give it to them, and they don't have to piece things together. Excuse me. And where they're not shopping is chain vitamin and health food stores. So that's been less a part of the market, but what's happening is there's either no personalization or there's lots of personalization. And I want us over here. I don't want us competing with the big retailers. Let's find our own lane. Let's help our people feel better. And that's what it's all about. And I also think this quote, I really, Paracelsus, this is like 16th century. So we know that medicine is really an art. And I do think that when we're dealing with mental health issues, there's a tremendous amount of an art that goes into it. Of course, we have to be skilled. We need to understand some biochemical pathways, but it really calls on our empathy. It really calls on our listening skills and probing questions, asking the right questions. Because again, people aren't going to tell you their deepest, darkest, scariest thoughts. Particularly, and there's some populations that are very much that way. Like I work with quite a Caribbean population, people from Trinidad, Jamaica, Barbados, things like that. Mental health is not a thing. It's starting to be, but it has not been a thing in past. Southeast Asian communities, sometimes it's not a thing to talk about these things. So asking the right questions, I think, is quite a big deal. Another population I see that struggles sometimes to talk about are single parents, because they don't want you to think that they're not fit to raise their children. So sometimes you really have to make them feel safe in order to open up about their mental health struggles. And in my mind, it's really the pinnacle of prescribing. You know, when you're able to formulate something really cool and really personal that people can't find anywhere else, I feel like you're practicing the art and the science of medicine in such a lovely way. So I'm excited for all of us to be doing that. Okay, so let's talk about how to formulate for patients when they are sad and scared. And I'm using those words really specifically as opposed to depressed and anxious, because, you know, it's a little bit of like a distancing language. And I want us to remember these are real emotions. You know, like people are like not calling their family back and isolating themselves, or they're like not showing up to pickleball because they're not feeling well. They're waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning and their heart's racing in their chest and they feel like they're going to lose their job for no apparent reason. Or, you know, these are real feelings that these people are having. So anything we can do to support people with this, I feel like more power to us. Yeah, and it really is sad. There's fear, there's anger, there's resentment. There's such a constellation of feelings, you know, that go into being anxious or depressed. I always think about this, and you guys can let me know if you think about this the same way, but I always look at the person in front of me and I'm thinking, is this person situationally depressed, or is this a biochemical depression? And certainly you can have overlap, but life is damn hard. And I think, you know, many of us in our human experience will have a period of time where technically we probably could have been diagnosed with major depressive disorder, whether or not we had it. But it's probably just that life is damn hard sometimes. So I think people have financial struggles and strains that they haven't had before. Like I just learned the other day that the average Canadian is spending $1,600 a month on their car, which, you know, for some of us will be like, yeah, that's not a big deal. But you know, I think for the average person and with an average salary, I was like, that's kind of a lot of money. And if you need 2 cars, like it's that type of thing that adds up. I think parenting can be very difficult and very demanding. I don't think we give enough credit sometimes to parents, particularly working ones. I think some people show up to a job that is extremely toxic and they're harassed at work. I'm fortunate to work for Vitamin Lab, so I don't have that problem. But let's be honest, a lot of people hate their job. I think we have people that are in distanced relationships where maybe it's not abusive, but there's a lot of coldness. They're not getting that hour and a half a week that you need with your partner to really connect and make sure, like, are we even on the same page? Do we even like each other anymore? Like, so I think that's a problem. I even personally working in I live in the city, but I work in a suburb, and I find commuting, people spending 2 hours a day in their car in hardcore traffic. The 401 in Toronto, our big highway, is like bumper to bumper, super stressful. I don't know how people in Los Angeles or New York City do those commutes. And then like our food supply, right? So if like, I know I don't need to talk to you guys about food supply. I know you guys already know. And so many of our patients are not getting their servings of essential fatty acids, are not getting their berries, their anthocyanidins. It's just not happening. Their fiber intake is not great because they're stressed and burned. And particularly if you're not feeling well, you either eat too much or too little. So I'm always looking, okay, is this situational or is this biochemical? And there may be overlap again, but you know, let's flush it out because I do treat them differently. And again, you can comment if you agree, disagree, but yeah, that's how I kind of look at it. So let's not start here. So when I was doing this research, I, of course, got into the MTHFR, and we are going to talk about these genetic things in a minor way. I'm not an expert, so I'm just going to go, you know, sort of reasonably high level, but we'll talk about different factors. But we're not going to start here because I ended up here. So yeah, I ended up totally in the weeds. To everybody that practices real genetic medicine, you know what, I bow down to you, because these types of, like I was talking today to Ben Viola from My DNA. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a great DNA testing company, but my God, I could feel myself like glazing over, and I'm a reasonably, you know, intelligent person. But yeah, shout out to everybody that does the DNA testing and understands these types of things. We'll get into it a little bit today, but what I really want to talk to you about is what really helps people feel better safely, because at the end of the day, I really feel like it's important for us to move the needle and have people see progress. Because even if you're not totally undepressed, even if life is still hard as hell, if you can feel a little bit lifted, it really renews your hope that things can get better. So as long as we're just moving people in the right direction, I think that's great. Of course, we're going to be screening for, suicidal ideations. Does this person need pharmaceutical interventions? Like, I always let my patients know, there's no shame in whatever route you need to be taking. And I also don't really, like in Canada, the problem is sometimes you see a psychiatrist, you'll get medications, but they don't have time for you to follow up with you until like 8 months later. So you're really kind of out there, your family doctor might check in a little bit. But I do think that, a good thing for us to be doing is kind of checking in regularly, because I think it makes people feel, what I've realized is a lot of people feel like nobody really gives a shit about them, like they feel like they have to have the world on their shoulders. And if they let things fall apart, like, I feel like a lot of moms feel that way. A lot of dads feel that way, like where one false move and it's just a house of cards. So if we can let people know, like, you know what, just book in, even if it's just for 15 minutes, like, let's get checked in, let's tap in and just make sure you're moving the needle, feeling better. Okay, easy way to formulate. So this is how I think about formulating. Again, if you've been through this presentation, I'll just do it briefly. Chinese herbalist. Okay, this is really where I got the idea from this, because I did in Canada as a naturopath, you study Chinese medicine. I'm not a Chinese herbalist. That takes like 10 years of just studying herbalism to be like even close to good. But they do have this concept where you find the emperor, which is like, how am I going to make this person feel better? Then you're looking for the minister, which is supportive ingredients. How can I add synergy? And I do think it's really awesome when we can create a formula that just resonates. It has a really good synergy. So I'll show you like how I do that next. I'm thinking about the assistant, like, do I need to aid in the delivery of these nutrients? Is circulation okay? Is the digestive lining appropriate? Do they need increased protein intake to support transporters, also transmitters, both actually. And the guide, I like to support weak pathways if I can. But really, if you just do the top two things, the emperor and the minister, you find some good ingredients that'll move the needle, and you find some supportive ingredients, you're going to end up with a formula that people can't find anywhere else, and is vastly better than anything on Amazon, certainly. Okay, so let's do a case study. So this would be common for me to see something like this, and probably for you too. So Tim comes in and he sits down, and I can picture this patient. I actually have this patient, right? Not him in the picture, but this patient sits down. He's like, she wants full custody of my kids. I'm a good dad. And there's some life situations that people go through. Divorce, legal proceedings not related to divorce, being sued, things of that nature, losing a job, particularly due to disability, where you don't know when you're going to be able to work again, betrayal, like having a best friend who just does you dirty or something like that. That's tremendously upsetting for people. And so this is what I'm talking about, situational depression, where when they tell you their story, you're like, yeah, I'd probably feel the same way. If somebody tried to take my kid, like, there's going to be an issue, right? So, and he's oscillating between, I'm either pissed off or I just want to give up. And I feel like that statement there is very much like the cornerstone of like HPA axis dysfunction. You know what I mean? Like pituitary gland, adrenal glands, because you're either like kind of burnt and tired because you have this low grade like cortisol thing happening that's sort of suppressing your thyroid hormone and doing funny things with your blood sugar, and you're sort of sluggish. Or at times you get this catecholamine release where it's like adrenaline, and you are like up at 3 o'clock in the morning, like plotting revenge on your boss or something like that, right? So I feel like when people tell me that they're either like apathetic or so amped, I'm like, okay, we need to seriously do some HPA access work here and get you feeling safe in your body again, because that's just not a safe feeling. And, he says he's been running in the mornings, and this is the case for a lot of our patients. They're trying, they're coming to see functional medicine doctors. They're no fool, they're trying. But, by midday, he's like, he just can't focus on work. He just, and when you're in this state where like somebody's going to take your kids or something like that, work, it's almost like, who cares about work, right? Other than you need to show up and kind of care. So, and you know what? I put this last statement here. He says, honestly, I'm lonely since moving out of the house. Nights are hard. I never thought I'd be sleeping alone. And I added that statement particularly because what I found lately, I don't know if you guys have found this. Type in the chat if you found this. I find that men in general, since I've started my practice, are better at opening up now. And maybe it's partly me being better at getting them to open up, maybe, but I don't want to take credit for that. I think there's a trend in men being a little bit more ready to talk about what's happening for them, especially if they feel like you're safe and you're cool and you're there to listen to them. So I'm just really appreciative of that when, anybody's going through a tough time, but I do find that's the case. So let's formulate for Tim. Let's go over to the portal. I'm going to share this tab instead. So we can start. This is, oh no, we logged in here. Okay, didn't need to do that. Okay, so we're at home. Oh, we have some new ingredients too, guys. We have magnesium malate. We have apigenin, which is from chamomile, which is very good. I don't know, we didn't really hype it up too much, but it's actually really good for insomnia. Like, this is great in a sleep stack. We can talk about that. But anyways, formulas. So you're going to go into your formulas tab. I was already kind of in here, but I took all the ingredients out. Let's go to Tim. I'm going to edit Tim's formula. So generally speaking, for mental health concerns, while you're checking in, like you're selecting your supply, he's going through a divorce. That's not going to be done in 2 minutes. We all know that's going to be, an ongoing nightmare for him probably. So let's do like a 90-day supply, nice and easy. We can decide if we want auto refills. I'll probably be checking in, so I don't think I'd select an auto refill. You guys know if you select auto refill, it just automatically goes into production. So only do that if you think that you want that to happen, or else, just don't, and you can just do it yourself. Let's do veggie capsules. Oh, I thought I deleted all these ingredients, but let's go through. Okay, so when I went through his case, okay, I'm just going to start from scratch. I think I'd like to, sorry guys, let me just take a minute here because I really want to build this out as though I am starting from scratch. So when I'm going through a case that is very much like a situational depression, I still support serotonin pathways. And I found a combination that really, really works well for me, and maybe perhaps you can try it for you. And that combination, and technically it is an interaction, but I really like St. John's wort. And, we have the standard dosing here. And when you're using synergistic kind of things, which is what we're going to do today, we don't need to go crazy with high dose. That's the point of synergy. We just make a nice formula. We don't need to hammer them over the head with anything. That's not even advisable. So we'll just go in and let's use the standard dose of St. John's wort. And what I find it really combines well with, where's my St. John's wort? I'm so sorry. I swear I always have technical difficulties at some point. What I find it really combines well with is the 5-HTP. So let's go in there and add that. Okay, I don't know why. Why is that not showing up? Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, I'm going to exit out of this formula and try that again. I swear. You have one job. Okay, there it is. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I really like the combination of St. John's wort and 5-HTP, and I'm going to tell you why. I'll show you in a diagram later on, but St. John's wort being kind of a ubiquitous herb that opens up serotonin receptors and also blocks the reuptake of serotonin, which is very helpful. Not just serotonin, dopamine as well. And then 5-HTP being a precursor for serotonin. So if we can give the substrate and then also help it be well utilized, I find that works really well for like a low grade, just depression, for lack of a better word, like low mood. I'd probably say low mood better than anything. And then when people tell me that they're having difficulty like with the life thing that could be drawn out, I'm always attracted to adaptogens because adaptogens really offer such a broad range of things that are the result of not feeling well, poor sleep, jittery feelings, like inappropriate cortisol release. Like they just tend to blanket the body in a better metabolic, a better functioning state under a state of duress, which I guess is the point of an adaptogen. So like I'll often use ashwagandha. That's like a very standard one that, you can definitely use. Ashwagandha is actually very good for sleep too. So a lot of our adaptogens, even though we're taking them during the day, because they have such an all-day regulatory effect, you will get better sleep. And it's not like you need to take them 30 minutes before you go to bed. They're not like valerian root where you need to like load up and go to bed. You don't have to do that. You can take it during the day and it'll help you. Another one that actually works well for sleep too, but is also very adaptogenic. I love Chinese mushrooms. If you're not using them in your practice, definitely recommend that you do. Great for immune function. They very much help with BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor, brain-derived neurofactor, like basically offering a protective effect to the brain. They have an anti-inflammatory function. Yeah, so I really like reishi mushroom. Reishi mushroom in particular has a little bit of a serotonin function as well, which I'll show you in a little bit. So, you know, I like to do a good dose of Chinese mushrooms, so we can add that in. Another thing that's, it's another Ayurvedic herb. I don't know if you guys have heard of holy basil. You probably have, but Tulsi, otherwise known as Tulsi, that's another one that really has that adaptogenic property. So we could add in maybe like 200 milligrams of that. So already we have a formula that you can't find anywhere else. Like 5-HTP is usually sold on its own, not with St. John's wort. You don't really see that combined, but we're skilled enough. We can combine those two things easily. And then you put in a little bit of an adaptogenic formula, fine. And then, you know, he said he wasn't focused at work, and I really like treating brain fog because it just sucks. You're like in a meeting and you're like kind of out of it. You don't know what's being said. It's almost like embarrassing sometimes. You forget where your keys are. You know, you forget when your kid's soccer practice is. It's just a hot mess. So things that will help acetylcholine are very good for that. So you could just use straight up choline, to be honest. Like really, I know it's a shocker, right? But we could just use like a little bit of choline in there. And then I really like this herb too, bacopa. Bacopa does help with serotonin release. It has a lot of neuroprotective value, and it helps with acetylcholine release, which is very good for acetylcholine is the major neurotransmitter that helps you with like just every day-to-day thinking, like memory, like being on top of things, like not being a hot mess. Like that's what acetylcholine will help you with. So you can just add in. So yeah, so I would make a formula like this for him. You could certainly add in like some magnesium threonate. You could add in some vitamin D. Like, you know, we probably should do that. We could probably add a little. Let's do a little bit just for vitamin D. Okay, we do have a vegan vitamin D too. So if you need that, we have it. So this would be 2,000 IUs, 25 micrograms being 1,000 IUs. I don't know the US, do you guys use IUs or micrograms? I'm in Canada, so our units are always, I don't know, we're the metric system. I know you guys are imperial, so sometimes when you guys tell me a temperature, like you're like, oh, it's 45 degrees or something like that, I'm like, is that hot or cold? I never know. Okay, so we have a formula here, like 5-HTP, St. John's wort, we're supporting the serotonin pathways. We have some ashwagandha, some reishi, some holy basil. We have the adaptogen pathways supporting that HPA access. And then we're going to give them something for cognition. Like, let's clear up that brain fog. Let's clear out the cobwebs and get you like tapped in, tuned in at work. So choline, bacopa, and a little bit of vitamin D. Like that formula does not exist. Like you can search Amazon and the 1,022 million pages, and you're not going to find a formula like this. And it's very targeted. You know, we got the emperor ingredients. We have like, let's push the serotonin pathways. Let's help this guy feel better. You know, and the thing about these is it's because we're like gently pushing pathways. We're not like jamming things and forcing things. So if he wants to come off this, he can stop. He's not going to have brain zaps and all kind of weird things that happen when you abruptly stop antidepressants. Some people can abruptly stop. We all know that, but I don't know. To me, it's not that advisable. I think it's nice to wean down. You don't want to stress your brain like that. And then, you know, he's got some things for stress and cognition, as we said. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. If there's any questions about that, just, you know, but hopefully that all made sense. Okay, so let's just go through what are adaptogens, because I really think we should all be using them. And there's a whole host of them. There's like adaptogens in Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine are probably the largest class of botanicals. You know, even in there's a lot of them too in North American herbology as well. But you know, the basics of ashwagandha, the Chinese mushrooms, the holy basil, those are kind of the top ones I can think of. Yeah, others will come to me. But what are we really looking at? We're looking at this is a study of ashwagandha. So we're looking at decreasing cortisol over time. I suspect this DHEA is probably non-significant, so we won't focus on that. But look at this testosterone. Look at that testosterone just like gently goes up. Like what a gift we can give a patient who's, you know, really stressed, like, you know, losing, you know, his family or his job is just horrible, or like what a gift to be like, you know what, let's just smooth out that cortisol release a little bit. You're still gonna be able to make it if you need to, no problem. And then let's gently encourage your testosterone. Like, hello, who's not gonna feel better with this? I feel like I want this. And okay, so this is a study of reishi mushroom. We don't have to get in, again, we're not going to get into the weeds with this, but I just want to show like sleep latency. This is the control. So sleep latency is coming down a little bit. So you're falling asleep a little bit faster. Your sleeping time is increasing a little bit. That's fantastic. We can see 5-HT. So actually serotonin production is increasing over time and with increasing doses. So, those are all good things. And that's what I like about adaptogens, is they're very versatile class of botanicals that I highly would recommend. In terms of St. John's wort, we've got, this is what I mean about, I just love our herbs. Like, you have the modulation of the receptors, you have the inhibition of uptake, you have inhibition of MAO, so you're not breaking down the serotonin and dopamine to the same degree. So St. John's wort works really well. Really these receptors, that's where like the drugs are acting, like our SSRI medications and such. So that's cool. And then 5-HTP. So you can give tryptophan. You give tryptophan, and it has to go through, tryptophan and hydroxylase will change it into 5-HTP. And we can see the cofactors here, vitamin B6. You can give a little bit of that. The pantethine, vitamin B5. We were supporting acetyl-CoA, so that's kind of cool too. So serotonin pathways. Again, and interesting, get to remember serotonin, we need that for adequate melatonin. So that's nice too. And we'll talk about SAMe. This is a really important guy over here that's quite useful. So we'll talk about that as well. And this metabolite here can be measured in urine. I think the organic acids test looks for the kyurenic, I think, pathway. And that will tell you if this person is not doing this and they're only doing this. So they're not using tryptophan appropriately, because then you wouldn't want to be giving them tryptophan that's just building up in the system. Yeah, and this is the wired but tired thing I was talking about, where people in the long-term stress response, they end up really sluggish. They're kind of retaining water, they have their blood pressures up, but at the same time, sometimes they get these rushes of catecholamines and norepinephrine and epinephrine and such. So these are our patients that are wired but tired. They have trouble relaxing, but they're exhausted at the same time. Yes, you can get, hi Angel, you can get a replay of the video for sure. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Okay, let's talk about Janine. And so we're just gonna do one more case study because I want to juxtapose like more of that situational depression, where we're looking at supporting serotonin, adaptogens, like just let's get this person's brain fully online, versus somebody like Janine. So, and I chose this picture. Can you guys look at this picture? Hopefully you guys can see. So I totally changed. No problem, Angel. Have a good night. I chose this because look at her smile and then look at her eyes. Can you see what I'm seeing? Do you notice when people smile with their full mouth, but they're not smiling with their eyes? And I feel like some of my patients that have that chronic depression, they've almost hacked this look. Like they really, they're able to put on that happy face because they know that's what society wants. Society doesn't really want you to be down and depressed, to be totally honest about your feelings, but you can always see it in the eyes when people are not really happy. So I thought that was an interesting photo. So we have Janine. She says to you, she's honest with you. She says, I'm a glass half empty person. I just don't know how people are just happy, like out of nowhere, right? And we all have those patients that they're just, they're just not that happy. It's not their default position. They can get there. They have moments of joy for sure, but it's just not them, right? She's on an SSRI. And a lot of people that undermethylate do well on SSRIs. She says their sex drive kind of sucks. That sometimes happens with the Cipralex isn't too bad, but it does happen. But she says, I'm the happiest I've ever been. She's feeling pretty good on her SSRI. But the main problem is she wants to get pregnant. I know, she says, I know it's supposed to be safe. Cipralex is supposed to be safe. There's like, the thing with Cipralex, if you look at the research, they will tell you there's a minor risk of having heart defects with your baby. So they say most babies, totally fine. But for a lot of women, some women will stay on antidepressants. There's nothing wrong with that decision. Fine. You talk it over with your doctor. That's your own personal decision. But a lot of women, they're just not comfortable with little heart defects and things of that nature. So they come off their medications, right? And they come to us and they want to prepare their body because there's more talk about fertility. You don't just go out there and get pregnant nowadays. You're like, it's like game time, months before, getting your antioxidant status up and whatever the case might be. So she's come to us basically with that concern. And she says she's done one of those stupid DNA tests at some point. It was this MT something or other, and the gene was slow at something or other. And I don't know how we retail these health tests to people and just hand them these results. And what do you expect them to do with it exactly? I don't even really know what to do with it all the time. I have to, when I get a DNA test, I'm like sweaty and I have to sit there. Do DNA tests? Do you guys get DNA tests that are 90 pages long? My DNA test, like I've kind of figured out like where to pull the pertinent information, but the result was 90 pages. Like, what is, like, I have a job, like I can't just sit here. Anyways, so she's gotten one of those, one of my patients, when she came, she's like, there's something wrong with my mother effer gene. It's like, oh my God, that's not what it is, but thank you for that joke. So yes, so she's got something wrong with her genes. She knows there's something up. She's never happy. She's never been happy, and it's just not her default, but she wants to be a little happier. She's going to be a mom, and she wants to get pregnant. So we definitely don't want there to be any issues with folic acid, with folate. Yes, Maisha, you can definitely get replay for sure. So we need to make sure her folic acid is on point and she's metabolizing it well, because this is like neural tube defects. Like, this is a big deal, right? Like, this is DNA. Like, we don't want to mess with that in terms of pregnancy. So perfect chance. Let's get her in here. Okay, so let's formulate for Janine. Okay, let me go back over here. Okay, so let's formulate for Janine. Okay, I really did delete all this, but I guess I didn't click save. That's a little portal lesson for you. Click save. Okay, so I won't go through. I won't torture you by deleting all this. But okay, here's such an easy way to make a killer formula for somebody that has some mood disorders, but is also looking to get pregnant. So did you guys know that we have protocols? Like, if you click here, we've got like all kinds of protocols, stress and gut. I think I made that one. We have adrenal protocols, we have antioxidant blends, we have a B complex. Please do not feel like you have to sit there and be like 3 milligrams of niacin and 2 milligrams of riboflavin. Unless you want to do that and you feel spiritually called to do that, fine. But you can always just put in a B complex, and then you click on this little button here and you can edit it. So you can just change the ingredients. So please don't feel like you have to start from scratch. And so Vitamin Lab is built out of prenatal. So let's just use that. And we can go through and like, okay, so in this case, I think that the prenatal originally had 8 milligrams or like something. The RDA for vitamin B12 was only like 2.3. It's maybe like 3 if you're pregnant, but like every supplement we know is at least like 1,000, 800, sometimes they're 5,000. So I just went in here, I just clicked on this little thing, and you can just jack up so if you want to give her maybe a little bit more niacin to support the methylation pathway, because it is involved, you put that at 25 milligrams. You put this up to 800. Maybe her hair is not, she wants a little bit more lustrous hair. You could put that up to 200. So we can go through and make changes as we see fit to this. So any protocol, nothing's set in stone. And also, if you want help making some mental health protocols, like after this is said and done, like I can help you do that, or you can make your own, like, either way. So let's do the prenatal. And then what I did was I was like, okay, let's offer her some mood support, specifically looking at the methylation pathway. So I'm going to give her, I'll show you the methylation pathway afterwards, so you know where I'm coming from this. So please don't feel like you need to be like, oh, I know every single thing about the methylation pathway. It's a nightmare. You don't have to. But okay, so let's give her a little 5-HTP. We can certainly support serotonin. We're not blasting her with serotonin. This isn't the same as an antidepressant. This is just a precursor. If her body doesn't need it, it's not going to use it. It'll just excrete it. Not a big deal. We'll give her a little bit of trimethylglycine. I'll show you why this is important. It's a very stabilizing amino acid for the brain. Methionine is a precursor to S-adenosyl methionine. So these two go together. Tryptophan, again, just very calming sort of 5-HTP precursor. We could add in a little bit of magnesium. So there's already magnesium glycinate up here, but it's really nice to mix different magnesiums, I find, because the ligand, like whatever's attached to the magnesium, has different functions. And magnesium 3 and 8, I think 3 and 8 is a really teeny tiny molecule. I think that's why, but I do know that it crosses the blood-brain barrier more effectively than other forms of magnesium. although glycine is very small too. There's something about magnesium threonate that crosses, maybe it's a polarity thing, where it crosses the blood-brain barrier very nicely. So if we're looking at mental health concerns, I do like that one. But I like mixing it with the glycinate because maybe it doesn't cross so well, but a lot of people are very tense in their body when they're stressed and depressed, right? So we can give something that maybe has a little bit more of a muscular effect, something that has a little bit more of a cognitive effect, and we're just winning on all regards. And okay, I want to point out this one to you because this is a hack. If you have people on SSRIs and their sex drive has gone down to the ground, saffron, who knew, right? Very potent in antioxidants. Very expensive to buy. I think it's the most expensive little spice you can buy, but we can add it into supplements, and it very much helps offset the negative sexual side effects from SSRI medications. So now you know. And we can do some SAMe. So this is pretty much considered like the king of donating methyl groups in order to produce neurotransmitters. It's not the be all end all, because as we'll see with the cycles and all the wheels turning, you do need all your cofactors, but it's pretty much like handing the body, like, would you like a methylator? Because here you go, do with it what you will. So what do we have here? We have a 3-capsule formula, nothing crazy. The monthly retail price, it's a little higher, but if she had to pay for a good prenatal, because people don't cheap out on those really. And then she had to pay for all of these supplements separately. And saffron's not exactly cheap. Neither is SAMe, actually. Both of those are fairly costly if you just buy them off the shelf. So what a good formula. Like, you have a prenatal and you have things to help correct your slow methylation. There's under methylation, over and under. I forgot the right term. I'm just checking the comments here. Okay. Yeah, please feel free to pop anything into the comments if you want to correct me or talk or okay, so that was the formula for Janine. Like, you could even, and we're using this as a base. So bang, bang, bang. You just add those other ingredients in. It's not, and you can create this as a protocol too. So you can have this as your own little methylation protocol, and you do your methylation protocol plus a prenatal, and you've made something you cannot find anywhere else, which makes you what I'd like to call super cool. Okay, so let's talk about this darn cycle. Okay, so dietary folate, this is synthetic folate. This is not this folate, M5 methyl tetrahydrofolate. I think that's what that is. Yes. And it's not folinic acid, which is another type of folate, which is not synthetic and kind of gets incorporated somewhere over here, sort of thing. It's not quite this, but it's not quite this. So in order to get folate over to this, over to the MTHF version, we need this. This is where things go sideways, right? We can have over-methylators that are pushing this pathway like crazy, and over-methylators, they can get depressed too. And if you put them on an SSRI, it makes them feel completely whacked out. So like that's not great. So we can see we need DHA, we need our essential fatty acids, which, like, let's never forget those. I just really started amping up my essential fatty acids, and as you can tell, I feel great. We have vitamin B2, we have vitamin B3, vitamin B6, super, super important. So really, it's not like one thing. We need overall nutrition. So this cycle donates a methyl group over to this cycle, which will take you, this is why we supplement with methionine sometimes to push this pathway. And this is where the SAMe comes in. So the SAMe is the last step of methyl donation before you make your neurotransmitters. And if you're not appropriately doing this business here with this methylation piece, you can get homocysteine building up. So you can get homocysteine building up if you don't have appropriate B12 and B2 to push these pathways, and if your folate, I'm just going to say folate because I don't feel like saying these letters. If your folate sucks, basically, this pathway is not going to get pushed, and you're going to get a buildup of homocysteine, which we know is problematic for cardiovascular disease, brain inflammation. It's just bad news. It's a bad sign. And you can test for homocysteine to kind of see how is this pathway going. Some people actually, when they start pushing this pathway, their homocysteine will go up a little bit transiently, right? Because we're moving this through. Other factors to give. So remember I was saying the trimethylglycine, that's the same as betaine. I don't know who named that because it's not logical at all. But these factors here we can see can move homocysteine into better places. Glutathione being a very potent antioxidant. Awesome. Sulfate, sure. I think of sulfuronidation as being a great thing for the liver. And taurine, great. Okay, wonderful. Needed for metabolism. Cool story. But yeah, so that's where SAMe comes into play. That's where methionine comes into play. And that's really all I think I would say about that cycle. I'm sure there's other people on the call that know much more about this than me, but I think for our purposes tonight, I think we're good. Why do some people feel worse with folates? Okay, so this is a weird thing. Do you guys know about this? Do you guys, I'm going to hold up this book. His name is Dr. William Walsh, and he wrote Nutrient Power. But more than just writing the book, he's really the pioneer of MTHFR deficiencies and sort of nutritional treatments for brain deficiencies. Like he talks about like measuring histamine as being, yeah, so if you are an undermethylator, you tend to have high histamine. So that can be like a blood marker you can check for. It's just, he is very interesting, just a very interesting dude. But he treats like hardcore things like schizophrenia and, you know, Alzheimer's disease. And so we're not covering that, but like he really, this book here, it's not even a big book, it's a slim volume, but it will give you a lot of good information. He has some good podcast interviews and stuff. He's a real pioneer in this space. There's also the Society for Orthomolecular Medicine. That was founded by this PhD dude, I think he was an MD actually, Abram Hoffer in the 1950s. So they're kind of old school dudes, but really they've studied a lot of patients and looked at a lot of brain scans and looked at a lot of blood metabolites. And so, yeah, it's just an interesting perspective. I'm not saying it's the be all end all, but if you're interested in genetics and epigenetics. So getting back to what I'm saying here, some people feel worse with folates because of this reason. Folate, unlike SAMe, which tends to upregulate receptors, folate can have a paradoxical reaction where it downregulates these receptors. And he talks about it in the book where he was so confused for a long time because he's like, I'm pushing the methylation pathway. He's like, why aren't these people feeling better? It's because, you know, the body has that homeostatic sort of, you know, balancing mechanism, right? So what was happening where sometimes people will down-regulate their serotonin receptors really severely, and then, you know, you're pushing these methylation pathways and they got nowhere to go. And we know even from drug targets, like those receptors are really, really important, right? So that being said, I tend to not go crazy with the folate. Like I just kind of give like a reasonable dose. I don't high dose it because you're never quite sure. You don't want to be doing things that are counteractive to what you're trying to achieve. Other mood formulas you can make. We're going to talk about a sleep stack. Certainly I find there's people that are like fight, flight, freeze, you know, they're just jumpy. Have you ever those people where like you put your hand on their shoulder and they're like, you know, like it's like that sort of reaction. We have our chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia patients that definitely need mood help, serotonin support. We have our IBS patients that have the IBS mood thing that just, you know, everything they feel in their gut, it's almost like they have a sad gut, you know, they're just like, oh, it's so sad. So that sort of combination can be really powerful if you can do some serotonin work and some you know, cognitive work, but also help people with their digestion. Like that's total win. Of course we have the PMDD patients, and then we can have depression associated with aging as well. So we can be providing, you know, circulatory support and yeah, again, that those BDNF supportive factors. What I really love for us is that formulating means you're in your own lane. So today we made products that you can't find anywhere else. That's what it comes down to. You don't have any competition. You have a lot of loyalty because people are like, you're so cool. You made me a really cool product that works, and you get to make money and you're not losing it to Amazon or FullScript or whatever else, right? So yeah, there's this question, you know, the elephant in the room is kind of like, especially with people that are newer to us or newer to this, because we do have some practitioners who are kind of just getting into the field of integrative medicine. Maybe we have some like, we had a psychiatrist I talked to a couple of weeks ago. We have some emergency room people that are like, yeah, I'm used to saving people's lives from a stroke, like, but you know, I'm burned out and I think there's other ways to do healthy things. And I want to talk to people in new ways. And so we're always here to help you. I'm always so excited when people enter into the field of functional medicine, like, yay, go us, you know, like let's go team. And yeah, so I just want you to know that Vitamin Lab, we do have your back and we have a whole team. It's definitely not just me. We have great customer experience. We have other nutritionists. We have a whole lab team that really gets it, how to formulate. You know, if you formulate a powder and we're like, that's not really going to taste very good. It's got a whole bunch of amino acids in it. Did you know amino acids really taste terrible? Yeah, it's pretty, how they do the protein powders and stuff. It's very cool because on their own, they taste bitter and awful. So if you make a product and we're like, that's not going to go down with a cool glass of water in the morning, we'll let you know, and you can decide if you want to add flavor or encapsulate it. So yeah, just know we're always here for you. What to avoid, and I actually had a situation with this just today, I think, and God bless that person. I really love working with him, but he put everything we have into a product pretty much, and it just doesn't quite work. So just because we can do something, I don't think we necessarily should do something. So really try to target. That's why I go through that little triangle. We're picking our main ingredients, we're kind of finding synergies and kind of opening up pathways, but we're doing like pretty intentional work here. I'm not saying he wasn't being intentional. I'm sure he was. He just wanted to make a big product, hey, more power to you. But it's just, it can just be a lot sometimes. I think it's a lot to digest. I think it can be a lot energetically, even for the body to assimilate when it gets kind of pummeled with all these different nutrients and herbs and antioxidants. And yeah, it just gets wild. So let's maybe not do that so much. Yeah. And again, we have your back. If you do that and we're like, we're not too sure, or if you're not too sure, really, if you're not too sure, you're like, Lydia, can you look at this formula for me? Yeah, let's talk it out. Okay, this is the last thing I'm going to talk about tonight, because I do think this can be very useful, particularly if you see patterns of patients. So you can create protocols in your portal, like how we had the prenatal, where you just click on it and all your ingredients are there. And we also have bulk orders. So if you're like, you know what, I know that I have a lot of PMDD patients. I need 100 bottles. Like I have enough patients. Like I'm going to sell them. So let's do that. It does bring the price down quite a bit when you order, bottles that you're going to go through. So you can make PMDD formulas. And I want you to notice how each of these formulas are very distinct and different, but they're all pretty essential for mood support. Because if you have PMDD, you need support. You need the 5-HTP. You need a good dose of magnesium. You need some pituitary ovary gland sort of communicators, black cohosh angelica. So there we go. We have our fight, flight, freeze patients who are in a perpetual state, kind of like deer in headlights, or very anxious, just waiting for the shoe to drop. Kind of oftentimes these people have PTSD or some trauma in their past, that very, very common. So this combination here is very nice for recalibrating the nervous system to a more calm and sort of nice state. I love this combination actually, passion flower and lemon balm. This combination is very, very chill, very lovely. You can take it during the day. You can take it in a tea. Like if you don't want capsules, you can buy passion flower and lemon balm, and you can buy the raw herb or get the bags and mix them together and make your own tea. It's just very lemon balm. You can tell it by the smell. It's just very like invigorating, but also soothing, which is very nice, because you don't always want to just be like comatose. And we have our methyl factors and a sleep stack. So like if you are looking to how to put somebody to bed, theanine, this combination here, yes, okay. Inositol stabilizes the nervous system, really helps you metabolize neurotransmitters well. You can do a little bit of melatonin, valerian. That's just a straight knockout herb. Like you're not taking that in the morning. Apigenin, that's the one that is an extract from chamomile. So that's actually a newer one, but it's really gaining a lot of, because it's very safe. So you can create something in the ashwagandha and the reishi, like I said, like those work over time to kind of help your sleep cycles improve. Glycine being similar to trimethylglycine or betaine, helping with neurotransmitter support, and theanine's kind of what's in green tea, or tea in general. That's the opposite of, I always describe it as the opposite of caffeine. It's the reason why tea is not as stimulating as coffee, right? It's kind of chill. So like, look how different each of these are. But, I'm sure you could think of indications for each of these, right? We all have patients that could fall into these. So this sleep stack here, like, yes. I think I need that sleep stack tonight. I always get so hyper after these. It's terrible for my melatonin release, let me tell you. Yeah, and then so let's just take this for example. Okay, so every time I do a case, I always think about, okay, what would that patient type into Amazon to try to find something to take, right? So very well, Janine might be like, okay, is there a prenatal I can take for depression, right? Like, you'd think that you why not give it a try, right? When I type it in, like, look at what we get here. Like, what is even happening? Like, we have this one down here that's gummies, and a lot of people are like, gummies, right? I want my vitamins to taste like candy, not realizing that there's like 0.1% of what they need in things. And there's a good old class of Centrum vitamins, which some people are like, okay, let's take a Centrum. But other people are like, I don't know if I want to take Centrum. Like there's this progressive one over here. And this one's $118. Like, oh, my baby's worth $118, right? And then you have this one over here that's half price. And like, why is this one half price? And it's just like this shopping experience is not great. Like this one's got DHEA. Well, I want my baby to have DHEA. I think it's good for their brain. I want my baby to have a good brain. And oh my gosh, like this one's Therabate. This one's got iron in it. Like, what if I'm anemic? I can't be anemic. Like, oh my gosh, that my, you know, like I feel for our patients that have the shopping experience. You know, they're looking at the stars. This one's 3.5 stars. And this one's, you know, what are the reviews? And then you go into this one, and it's got 1,300 people commenting on it. And, you know, when you're pregnant, you're already stressed. You already feel like the pressure's on. You need to make this perfect little baby. And so let's just avoid all of this for our patients. And you're going to say, I'm going to make something for you. And Vitamin Lab is going to drop ship it to you. So you can just Google other things. Okay. You can look at bottle warmers and baby blankets. You don't have to be on at 11 o'clock at night trying to figure out if you want a gummy or what about the DHA, right? So let's just alleviate all that stress. Launch with Vitamin Lab. Yeah. On board, meet with Sarah, Christina. Hopefully you've done that. Then you have account managers, myself or Carolina, and try to aim for one custom formula a week in the first month. When you're getting started, you know, pick a patient, maybe a patient like this, patient that's going through it, just going through it, and, you know, formulate something for them. So usually that's the tipping point. Once you've done it about 4 times in a month, you formulated, you kind of got it down. And it's very important to have some protocols because you don't want to go in there each time and reinvent the wheel. Some of you will be doing micronutrient testing, which I didn't talk about tonight. If you're interested in that, reach out to me if you're not doing it, because it is a very easy way to formulate. But even with the micronutrient testing, you know, you can add on adaptogens, right? We can add on some reishi mushroom because that doesn't test. You don't have a deficiency of ashwagandha, right? But, you know, maybe you do really, right? You need it for your sleep. So we can always add those things on. Yeah.